Oh, I do see a little congressman action. He congressman? His staff is asking what happens now. That is a great question. Because you all know we kind of make it up as we go here at Ask the Full. So we have two speakers, but I can only hear my voice, and I'm kind of sick of hearing me talking. Nice. That's right. Give them all the love, y'all. So he's not muted from me. How do you unmute? He should be able to speak. And pardon my Noah. Noah's handling it. Um, I think you can hear me, Congressman. Thank you so much for joining us. Knowing that you're here, but you can't speak yet. Whenever you can speak, please speak over me because you're an elected lawmaker and I'm just little dipshit me. Um, but so again, Congressman Burlison, member of the UAP caucus, uh, first term Republican from Missouri. I'm a fellow Midwesterner. I haven't told him this yet, but I'm a Cubs fan, and I bet he's a Cards fan. Hopefully, he doesn't hang up after hearing that. Mad respect to your team, sir. But so I'll keep talking because he's not here. But Burleson has shown true passion on this issue, and he told the poll exclusive after the skiff meeting that he went in there with a long list of questions, and he asked the inspector general those questions. It seems like from what was discussed in there that now lawmakers have more information to ask even sharper, smarter questions when they have their next classified briefing, which it seems like lawmakers, it seemed like there was kind of agreement that lawmakers need to have another classified briefing, but they also want um, unusual joint activity detected. What does that mean? Unusual joint review. No one cares. No, we like this guy. And we upped our limits, so it's not the limits that would be the problem. We actually dropped money. No, no, no. Sorry, I see them. I just marked something as resolved. Hopefully that wasn't Mike Turner. All right, I hear that he is set up and getting in the chair. Drum roll. I used to cover music, but I am not a musician. Cool. Reading the link out. So that might mean he's about to start talking because I am sick of hearing myself. See, that's why I like the balloon emoji. It's kind of mysterious. It can be a heart, but it can also be like ooh, a little bit sketch. Saw movement. I bet he's coming back in 1 second. Cool. He's trying to join again. I unmuted the music, which is really terrible elevator music. I'm embarrassed by that. Yeah, so I'll keep going. Remember the backdrop of this entire year. We're in the midst of the 2020 election, or is it the 2016 election? 2024. So that's gonna suck all of the oxygen out of Washington. The interesting thing that I'm kind of watching for, because UAPs have remained a nonpartisan issue, I'm curious whether an issue like this, broad bipartisan support, whether something like this can rise to the surface because every other issue both parties care about is going to be killed by the other party. It's where election years have a funny way with people. Um, and so we'll see. But it definitely seems like the UAP caucus and their new allies. Like I didn't know much about that Congressman Mike Wall. So actually, I had no idea who he was when I was interviewing him. I just saw his pin and knew he was a member, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna like figure this out later." So that's where at the end I was like, "Hey, can you remind me your district?" You said sixth district. Once he said that, he looked at every member of the oversight committee and was like, "All right, which one of you is from the sixth district?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not you. Oh, that's you." Um, but he's fascinating because he's on the intelligence committee, ask armed services committee. Um, but someone told me to put him on the stage. How do I do that? Where is he? Oh, here it is. I just had him. My intern should be. He just disappeared. We have the news. Congressman had a problem with security settings on his computer, House of Representatives computer. He's switching to his iPad. So I think that might have solved it. Um, which actually makes sense. And actually, that's one of my curiosities. I'm like, wait, if the skiff inside the Capitol, lawmakers have to leave their devices outside of it, is the assumption that like they're hackable, me and others walking around the Capitol, that our devices have already been hacked by Russia, China, North Korea, and everyone. Um, Discord and the U.S. government have a shady relationship. Where'd you go, Mister Burris? God, I can't wait to stop talking. I think that's why I like being a reporter. 'Cause I get to ask questions and then shut the fuck up. Oh, wait, Congressman's here. I should curse less. Or Congressman's here. Maybe I should curse more. Yeah, torn. Um, Congressman, I'm gonna buy you a beer after this. Maybe next time I just go to their office, sit down with them, bring a six pack. I see the drunk in the audience likes that one. You get a balloon for that. Oh, we got movement. I think I hear you, sir.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
You exist. Everyone was calling me a liar and saying I'm the lying media. Hey, how are
I'm
you?
not sure how to make this view better, but yeah.
Oh, you look perfect. You look austere. How'd the vote go? Did you vote to keep the government's lights on, or
No, hell no.
I know, right?
I
Why'd you
voted to
oppose
shut
it?
it down. Yeah, I oppose it because I'm sick of funding this. I'm not going to continue to add more debt to the national debt. I'm not going to continue to support a lot of the policies of this administration, particularly the border. Um, the fact that we fail to get a win on this is pathetic.
And you guys are kicking the can. I mean, we're going to be in this exact same spot in a couple months. But this is your
Yeah,
Washington, folks. If you don't like it, vote the bums out. Um,
exactly. Yeah, I'd say vote them out. Pay attention to our voting records. Pay attention because there's a lot of people up here that are part of the swamp. I mean, they're bought in. So
right?
I'm a freshman. I'm up here, been up here for 1 year, and I am wholly uninspired by the leadership of this place and by any appetite to actually do anything important or fix anything.
You said swamp, and this is a UAP conversation. So were you surprised to see Chair Mike Turner inside the skiff?
I didn't see him come in.
That's what I was curious of. I was wondering if he had like his own personal gym or something back there. So Turner might not have even been inside the skiff.
No, when you go in that hallway, you know, because you guys the press, all of y'all are gathered outside of those metal
Yeah.
doors there. When you go down that hallway, there's several different rooms they're basically meeting rooms, and you have to check your cell phones and your watches and all that kind of stuff, and you get a little number for what little cubby that you put it in, and then you either go into there's a room to the left, and then if you go down the hall past even more security, there's a room to the right, and that's where Mike Turner's committee meets. So if you saw him go in that day, I didn't see him in our skiff. He probably went to the other one.
Well, you just broke news here because I mean we have to ask and see if other people saw him because it sounds like there could have been people in that skiff who maybe you missed or could have come in and I assumed this is why you don't assume as a reporter. I assumed him walking out of there that he was in that skiff with you all, but it sounds like not so much.
He might have walked into the back of the room when I wasn't looking, but I didn't. He didn't. He certainly. I don't remember him asking a question. I was there the entire time.
Is there any way? There's not a two-way mirror in that room. Kind of joking.
No, there's
kind
not.
of not. That's curious because I was really surprised that he was there. I'm surprised to learn he likely wasn't.
I have a feeling he probably lives in that area. He probably spent, because being the Intel chairman, he probably is there all the time.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense why he would be there, but not inside. Well, we just broke news with first question. Have you had time? I know the government shutdown was looming and hanging over you all. Have you had time to talk to other UAP caucus members since then? Any game plan going forward?
I think Moskowitz and I had a conversation on the floor afterwards, and I think both of us came to the same conclusion that while others were extremely frustrated and some of them walked out early in the meeting and because out of
Yeah.
frustration, the I think Moskowitz and I stayed for quite some time. And I think that there was information to be gathered by reading between the lines, if you will, or um,
Yeah.
you know, seeing what's not being colored in.
Mhm.
You can figure some stuff out, and I think we got a lot of leads of where to go next.
And we got that, as the reporters outside there, the first two to leave were Congressman Raja or Congressman Chris Morthy, and Luna, and they were like, oh, this is, but then the person who came out next after them was like, oh, it opened the door a little. And then each person that came out a little bit later was like, well, not perfect, got more actionable stuff. Do you feel like a second public uh, UAP hearing is a done deal for this Congress? Do you think it'll happen?
I don't know. We got a lot of the year left, so I would like to see one. But what I would say is we're not probably ready for one because we need to get our next steps. And was my request prior to this meeting. Actually, it's been my
Mhm.
request before even Grush came into public hearing. I requested that we have him in a skiff before we had the public hearing back in the summer because I just from the conversations I knew he was not going to be able to tell us the whole story in the public setting. So I wanted it to booked ahead of time. But my goal was to find out in the skiff the things that he's not going to be able to tell us um, in the public
Yeah.
hearing, so that we can ask the right questions, if that makes sense, in the public hearing,
No,
right?
especially because half of his testimony was, hey guys, I can only talk about this with you in a classified setting.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so then that was the oversight committee. Do you know if it was Comer and his people who pooed that, or how was
No,
that request?
I think Comer's people are trying to be very helpful. I think his staff have been. This is a new thing for them. A lot of times when it comes to oversight, they don't have to go through a lot of these security clearances.
Yeah.
But one of the things about this in particular is that we have to get approval from multiple committee chairs and ranking members. So in order to get Grush into that hearing and us be able to be allowed to have a briefing in a skiff, he would have we would have to the oversight committee staff has to go and pursue permission from Mike Turner and the ranking member of Intel and also the House Armed Services Committee chair and their ranking member. And so anything that overlaps, they would have to get permission from those individuals and the ranking member of the committee. So the chair and the ranking member before they come in, before he's allowed to come in and present and skip, which you can tell that the oversight committee, that's something new to them and it seems like a daunting task. But my ask of them was, hey, look, the only way we're going to get information is if you ask. And so let's try to get this. And I said, if we get turned down by one of these ranking members or by one of the chairmen, then at least we know. And there's at least somebody that we can point to and say, you're not finding out because this person won't approve of that. And let the public, let your listeners and everybody on this channel, let them have it.
Well, and that's where, and it seems like now I jumped to conclusions, but that's where it was interesting seeing Turner walk out of there. Because what Congressman Jim Himes has told me, and I've known him for about 2 decades, I've covered Congress longer than he's been in there. He was like, no, me and Turner have never talked UAPs. And that was throughout the fall and early winter when the NDAA stuff was going on. And so that's super interesting. Do you, going forward, if Comer and them are, or where do you feel the clog is? Armed Services, HASC, or HIPSCI, House Permanent
I don't
Intel?
I don't know yet. Until they turn us down, I don't know that I can point to any one particular group that's the clog. But I would say that what's making this process slow is the bureaucracy itself. The mere fact that we have to go and say "Mother, may I" to all of these committee chairs and ranking members is clogging it, is making it difficult. And and honestly, I didn't know even that we would have to do that until we got to this point. If you'd asked me what do we need to do a year ago as a freshman member, I would have had no clue how we would go about the process of getting somebody into a SCIF. And so we're kind of feeling this out as we go. Those members like myself that are on the committee who are trying to pursue this, we're trying to just go one step at a time in the process, and sometimes you find out from one step to the next what you have to do.
Have you ever talked with Congressman Andre Carson about this?
No.
Good, because he was the one who chaired the first hearing in 50 years that happened in 2022, and he's on the Intelligence Committee. And every time I bring the issue up to him, he used to be a part of Homeland Security in Indianapolis, where he's from. And he's wise. He's always feeling me out for information. But last time I talked to him, he was like, hey, these people talking about the select UAP committee, do they have a ranking member in mind? Because he was kind of like, I would like to do it. But because he's on Intel, he might be your guy's ally in this.
Yeah, and Waltz as well. He's on Intel, I believe,
yep.
and House Armed Services.
He's on both. Yep.
So he's a good ally. He is a good ally, and he was very helpful in the SCIF meeting.
Well, because that's been my sense from Turner and Himes. At least from Himes, he's dismissive. He's just like, no, it's a non-issue. But that's where he's got so much respect for Carson, who's just right in back of him, seniority-wise.
Yeah, and I'll say, for example, one of the things that when we're in that meeting, that hearing was with the Office of Inspector General for the Intel. We have already had the meeting with the Office of Inspector General for DoD, and what you kind of tend to get from all of these agencies is the like, you need to go this way, point to the other guy, and yet that's a very frustrating answer to get, because when you have someone from one department saying, I'm not the one to ask, you need to ask this person, and that person points back to the very person you just talked to, it's very frustrating.
Wove secrecy into the bureaucracy.
Yeah, or lack of knowledge, and I hate to use the term ignorance, but I would say ignorance is accurate way of saying that maybe both of them are ignorant about the subject and don't even know who to ask.
My last question before I give it to listeners, is that your feeling now that you've been in Congress, that it's more than a big conspiracy, or the other way around, or both?
So I think that there's something that's being covered up. I think that the one thing that I can say that keeps me interested in this topic is that, and I'm a believer in the American experience. experiment. I'm a believer that political power is derived from the people, and that the people elect this government to secure their political power and their political speech and our political, all of our freedoms, not to but it's like, in my opinion, we're the stewards, just like your bank is the stewards of your monetary dollars. It doesn't mean that those dollars, when you deposit them in the bank, that they belong to the bank. They belong to you. It's just the bank's responsibility to be a steward of it. In the same way, I believe that America, the way our system works, is that myself and all the elected members, we're not the ones giving you political power. We're not the ones creating it. It's yours already, and we're just stewards of it. And so, that being said, I think that this information belongs to the people. The money that your taxpayer dollars are spending are your taxpayer dollars, and I think that you're at least the person that you elect to represent you should know what's happening with that information. And the one thing that I can say with certainty is that, based on my experience, that I think that there is some legitimacy to David Grush's claim that information is being withheld from Congress that should be released to Congress. I think that his claim that that information is being overly compartmentalized is clear on its face, and I think that his claim that that there's a culture of reprisal or a culture of fear and intimidation, I think that just based on his story alone, his personal story alone, it demonstrates that there's some validity to that.
Oh, and many
so
others.
And if you assume those things are true, and while we haven't been able to confirm all of the sensational things like that there are physical UFOs that are recovered, or there is human biologics, we haven't been able to confirm all of that stuff. But in my mind, us being able to confirm some of what Grush has said to be accurate, then gives a little bit of credibility to the rest of the things that he was saying.
Right. Yeah, that's what numerous people said leaving there, especially Congresswoman Luna. She's like, I distrust the intelligence community more. She goes, but nothing they've showed me makes me trust Grush less. If anything, I trust him more. She's like, I'm going to talk more with him now on ways to go forward. So I'm going to pass the mic to our.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Congressman Burlison, for being here. I have a couple questions, and if you can't answer them due to security concerns with the SCIF, please don't. I can give you full disclosure of any of these topics at a later point. First question, have you had proper disclosure of the aerogel sphere drone program at Los Alamos National Lab?
I don't think I can comment. I will say this is the first that I've heard of what you're talking about.
Oh, I can give you more information on it at a later date. Laslo has my information, and he can give my phone number to you. Have you also had proper disclosure of the National Recon Office's Sentient Reconnaissance Network at Patufic Air Base, Space Base?
Again, so let me just kind of not avoid, but answer a lot of these questions by being clear that we have not been given any information about any programs specifically, or any results from any of these programs. We've simply been able to validate through the Office of Inspector Generals that the process is broken in such a way that Grush accurately describes it.
My other question was about Lockheed Martin's Aerostat and HALE-D, High Altitude Long Endurance Demonstrator programs. These are also the same technologies, and it's what we're seeing in the air right now. I understand that you probably haven't been given that information, and I can give full disclosure of it to you because I believe that that is my duty as a patriotic U.S. citizen. Final question is sort of a statement. Have you heard of proper disclosure of the theft of national secrets from Los Alamos National Labs by the CCP in 2009? They walked out with 2 hard drives. It bootstrapped the CCP's program. The CCP now also has these drones because they stole the technology from Department of Energy, Triad National Services, and Los Alamos National Labs. I'll give some time to other people, and Matt Laslo can give you my contact information so that I can give you proper disclosure of these programs.
Yeah, I can't wait. You sound like you know what you're talking about.
That's the
Thank you
thing
so
about
much for your
this
time, Congressman.
community, Congressman, is there's so much knowledge, but it's almost like you have PhDs in this community and Congress is like kindergartners, which is for better and for worse. Not you, not members of the UAP caucus, not throwing you in that.
Well, no, it's fine. When you're in politics, you have to suddenly be thrust into new topics, and you have to suddenly become an expert on everything. And because of that, it's hard to get too in the weeds on a lot of issues.
And I opened it up to Ronik. Another thing people in this community need to remember, we're on a lot of committees. And like tonight, about UAPs as you are, tonight you had to vote to not fund the government, on principle, but like that's a very important vote for you, There's a lot going on.
We had six varying votes tonight on completely different topics, and then that was on the floor. And today I was in 3 committee hearings, transportation, I have the education and workforce committee, and then obviously oversight.
Huge. Education and workforce, those words, education and workforce, don't necessarily go together. Like that committee touches everything. But I'm going to pass the mic. You're muted right now. RP. Oh, there you go.
Hello there, gentlemen. Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah.
Right on. Mr. Burlison and Matt, thank you so much for this opportunity. And Mr. Burlison, I appreciate your efforts to seek more transparency on this subject. My question to you is sort of a 2-parter. The first being, have you and your colleagues considered using the Holman Rule against contractors or folks in Congress who are obfuscating? And 2, have you considered drafting legislation to immediately declassify UAP footage, such as the longer version of the gimbal video that exists, as mentioned by former Navy pilot Ryan Graves?
Yes to both. I'm a big proponent of using the Holman Rule. We've had members this year. Now, I will say, sadly, I don't know that we've passed a single Holman Rule this year. They generally fail on their votes because you you see a uniparty that will defend people that are employed within the government, and so. But it doesn't mean that we're not trying. So I think there's nothing like sending a shot across the bow than to use a Holman Rule on someone who's refusing to cooperate with you. And then your other question.
I hear you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your response.
Yeah, and to your other question, I want to take the language that Schumer drafted and then also work with the language that Tim Burchett had drafted, because both Burchett's language was very limited to just the Department of Defense, but it had a more aggressive timeline. The Schumer language had a broad brush. There were several departments that were brought in that would have had to have disclosures, Now, the process that he was using, I'm not sure I agree with as being the most ideal process, because he was imitating the JFK disclosure process, and there's a committee of people that get the information and they decide what can be released to the public. Well, guess what? It's 2024 and we still don't know what happened with the JFK assassination, and so I'm not.
What are you talking about? We know it was Ted Cruz's dad. Trump settled that. Sorry. Next question. Sorry, I'm a jackass, sir.
It's okay.
Hello. Hello, Mr. Burlison. First of all, thank you for your work on the subject. Now that many people abroad are following with great attention what is happening in the United States. I would like to ask you a simple question. What was the most surprising problem you encountered when you started asking questions about UAP?
Probably, what was the most surprising question that I had?
A problem that you encountered.
Problem.
The biggest hurdle.
I would say just getting the witness David Grush into a skiff. I would say that's probably the most. It's crazy that we could have him in a public hearing, but to get him back into a skiff seems insurmountable.
Thank you.
That's wild. And especially learning tonight that you were asking before the hearing, which makes so much sense. And yet,
Yep.
All right. Next. You got the mic.
Evo Sapien, it looks like. Or mute your
Three.
mute.
Okay. Hey, sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, so my question is that I know guys like Jeremy Corbell, they've said things that like the Inspector General, or there's been other witnesses that have gone to the ICIG, some firsthand witnesses, I suppose some secondhand witnesses as well. I was wondering if you could speak to that or if you know anything about that, because we haven't heard anything like official about that topic.
I don't know that I can speak to that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's my favorite response from lawmakers. Sometimes you ask like an Adam Schiff a question and he's got an answer for everything, but sometimes y'all don't know, and I love that.
No, I do know, I just can't speak to it.
I know, I heard that.
Okay.
It's you, Tyler.
Hey, Representative Burlison, thanks so much for joining this. I really, really appreciate the seriousness you bring to the topic. I was wondering, sort of reading in between the lines from everything you've heard, what is your personal opinion on how religion in general is related to the phenomenon? I've been reading a lot of Jacques Vallée, and he has a lot of theories. I don't know if you've read or heard about him. But if the spiritual dimension is maybe this other dimension where the NHI exists, what do you think they're trying to teach us or tell us through, religions or spiritual experiences, or just these interactions that we have with them throughout history, right? Whether it's anciently, you have fairies and gnomes, and then it kind of changes into angels and then these airships, and then we get into, the flying saucers, and now we get these cubes, and they're just kind of generational. I just wonder, what do you think they're trying to teach us, if anything, if you know, just your opinion, really?
So
Your colleague MTG.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just saying, your colleague MTG told me as much.
Yeah, I have to say that coming into this, my position is kind of tended to go in this direction, is what you're referring to, Tyler. That but what's ironic is that I get a lot of pushback from the evangelical community who believe that they'll just dismiss this on its face and say angels. They want to define angels. Which, okay, let's think this through. What what if you actually read the passages that are in the Bible, that when people encounter these creatures, they're just the word angel just means it's a messenger from God, meaning it could be any species of anything. In fact, there are times in the Bible where humans are considered angels because they're delivering a message from God. So there's a guy named Timothy Alberino who has a really great book called Birthright that I read after I had the hearing with David Grush. Somebody really encouraged me to read it. And honestly, it's a pretty good book. It's very, very insightful on the UFO phenomenon and then the interactions with how it it fits in with the biblical narrative. If you as a believer, as a Christian, are capable of throwing out the conventional, traditional views of what angels have become. These beautiful people with white wings and halos and all that stuff. That does not exist in the Bible. There's nowhere in the Bible where it describes angels that way. And so they are often described as like these very hard to understand looking creatures. And the Bible is very specific about, in one passage, about a metallic disc that they're standing on, and then a wheel within a wheel. I mean, can you imagine a person who's living in, who's living 1,000 years BC, being able to understand, seeing what a UFO might be, while they might be. So it's caused me to kind of be open to this as a concept that if we've been visited throughout history, some people who have been visited are going to describe it as something that seems supernatural, that seems spiritual, and I'm not going to discount that we're talking about one and the same thing. It is to me a distinct possibility.
We're going to have a whole night on this topic. I studied to be a pastor in a past life. I've given sermons in MTG's district, and I studied philosophy grad. So I'm all about that conversation. But for now, we're passing the mic to Joe.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Congressman. I'll be brief and concise here. What I'd like to ask is, how do we get more members of Congress engaged on this topic? I'm kind of surprised that given it's a fraud, waste, and abuse issue, like taking the whole NHI and more extravagant things out of it, there's clearly an oversight and a fraud, waste, and abuse issue. Would just like to see maybe other members of Congress also get engaged. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know why. I think that there's this tendency to belittle this and kind of smirk about it or sneer about it. But I think if you just look at the facts, we have pilots who are reporting near misses with objects. That in and of itself is something that we should investigate. And then when you've got reports from whistleblowers who are making the claims that David Grush has made, it demands investigation. And to not investigate it, I think, is not doing our job. So it's my hope that Speaker Johnson creates a special committee to study this, and then gives that committee the authority and the need to know. Because a lot of the conversations that we've had about security and about our clearances, when we what's clear is that there's this component of providing information that you might qualify, your security level might qualify you for the information that you're going to receive, but the other thing is that whether or not you have a need to know. And so I think if we create a special committee, the speaker can do so with granting it the authority to need to know. And that's what I hope is the next step.
Wait, I'm curious on that. do you have a security clearance even though you're not on Intel or House Armed Services?
Yeah, and I need to find out what that level is, but
Yeah.
I've been told that you by default get a particular clearance.
Interesting, but they never did like a background check on you. Yeah, sorry.
Voters did a background check on you.
Amen, brother. God bless that little thing called the Constitution.
What if the United States government and alien have had a agreement that states they can abduct and experiment on American citizens in exchange for non-human technologies? If that ever existed, if you found out that ever existed, how do you think that you and the elected officials would react to that such agreement? If
that existed, and if I discovered that, I don't care what it would mean to me personally. I mean, even if it meant that I would be violating the my clearance, what I learned in a secret setting, that is such a disturbing thing that I think that it'd be worth it to go to jail over and tell the public.
I have a second question.
Nope, we're not allowed second questions this round. Love you though. Come back next time. Next up.
Oh, thank you for your time. Was anything that was said in the skiff or anything that you've heard otherwise outright denial of anything Grush put forward? Has anything given you any pause on any of his suppositions?
No one has said that Grush is lying. There's room there, and I don't know how to say it without giving away what was said in one of the skiff meetings, but there's room there between a lie and what is true. If that makes sense?
As I say, remember, this is a reporter, this is my reporter toolkit. Don't ask what was said in the skiff. Ask around it in a roundabout way. We do not want our friend, Mr. Burlison, to go to jail. Great question, though. Next up.
Hi. Yes, can you hear me? Thanks for your time and thanks for your advocacy on this issue. It's a very important issue. It's one of my top three. I think,
what are the other two?
Yes, my question is, the other two are the defense of our democracy and AI policy. Those are my big three.
Oh, amen. Publicly admired.
I'm on the cybersecurity subcommittee that is assigned to AI policy.
Oh,
so.
I just organized an AI hackathon at my video game company. I'd love to connect with you on that at some point too. And no matter what, my question is, you mentioned earlier that you guys have an idea of a path forward now. Oh, sorry, I could turn on my camera. Whatever. A path forward. What can the public expect going forward? Are there going to be more hearings? Are y'all going to be knocking on doors to somebody? Or like what can you tell us about what comes next?
So I can't say. I'll say the goal is to get to another public hearing, and in the between time is to follow these leads and see if individuals or other information that we can bring forward into a public hearing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Congress, you know I am a Wired magazine contributor, so you and I have to have a sit down on AI, but that is a conversation for another day.
Probably the only congressman that has like a Discord, my own Discord account with a Midjourney subscription. I mess around with the AI Midjourney feature.
Oh, dude, you got to teach me. I've been too busy with Ask a Poll to do anything studying these chatbots or whatever, but I have other people doing it for me. Next on the mic, Tupac?
Hello.
Chupacabra?
Hey guys, great show. I'm glad you guys are doing this. This is really great. I have a question. I found your statements about the potential for this to be angelic, or like the biblical description of what would be like a messenger from God. I'm curious, like in the information you gathered from God, was there anything that kind of was implied about that? Like the interdimensional nature of the phenomenon, I think Grush has commented on before. But I'm curious, was there anything that like led you down that road?
Yeah.
As far as
Well, the moment that I read his report prior to the public hearing, and this is not a top secret report, but basically it's what he read in the hearing, and he mentioned the term extra dimensional. It really intrigued me, because I think that what he espoused, the position that he espoused, it fits my biblical world. And I'm not saying this is what all Christians believe, but I think that we live. This is my belief, that we live in a plane of existence that is just one plane of a much more deeper existence, and that obviously outside of our existence, in the way that he described as a holographic model. And I'll tell you why I think it's been validated through science. Why this is not just it's more than just a theory. I think that quantum entanglement points in the direction of this, because if you understand how that works, you've got two particles that are entangled. You send one photon to the other end of the galaxy, and then you make a change to the other one, and it instantaneously changes the attributes of the other without having anything sent in between. To me, it defies conventional space-time understanding, and unless you come to the conclusion that let me put it this way: if we're sitting in a movie theater and we're watching the screen, and you watch a ball bounce from one side of the screen to the other, you're gonna make up in your mind that travel distance between. But in the real reality is that there's almost no distance, or there is no distance when it comes to what's being projected at the point of the projector. And so therefore, that two-dimensional surface might experience time and distance, but what's being projected on that two-dimensional surface doesn't have that same time and distance. And I think that the fact that quantum entanglement exists, and the fact that particles at complete other ends of the galaxy can communicate, suggests that there's more to this reality. And I think that it only calls to that if there is more, and there's higher levels of existence, you can call it what you will. You can say that they're a superior form of an alien race, or you can say that they are godlike beings. You could say that ultimately there's. I think that I love philosophy. I think that there's a lot of explanations that there has to be a creator that was not created. There has to be an ultimate one God. But it doesn't harm my biblical worldview to believe that God created other creatures for His purpose, and uses them to interact with mankind on our plane of existence. Did I answer your question?
Congressman, I'm going to either have to smoke a joint or pull out my Bible after this conversation, maybe both. On that, though, to piggyback, what did you think of the phrase non-human intelligence that was used, I think, 19 or 20 or so times in the Schumer UAP amendment? Because when I asked Senator Brown...
Your words broke up. What? Can you repeat that?
In the Schumer UAP amendment, they used the phrase non-human intelligence about 19 or 20 times. When I asked Senator Rounds about that, I was like, wait, does that include AI? And he basically confirmed, yes, it does, with his wink-wink senatorial way. What did you make of that phrase? Or what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that was brought to my attention as well, and for a reason. That the idea was that by using that term, it's all encompassing of information that we might be able to gather, and we're not giving the authority to the gatekeepers to block it because according to their definition, it doesn't fit the definition of what we're looking for. So it's a catch-all.
So our last couple questions. This is fire round. Go quick.
All right. Quick question. Have you heard of anything going on in the Senate side of things regarding this topic? Like, say, from Schumer or anything from the Senate side in general?
No, but I will say this. I think Schumer, I don't know, I haven't talked to Schumer, but I'm disappointed because I will say, this is a guy, Schumer, just if you pay attention to what's happening politically, this is a guy who's gotten what he wants right now. Even though the Republicans hold the House, Schumer has convinced the Speaker to pass his appropriations at the top line levels that Schumer wants. Schumer has gotten a lot of things out of it. I mean, I think he's running the show, and the fact that he was not able to get his language through the House is a little bit, I don't know that I believe it, because when they say we have a four corners agreement, what that means is that you have the Speaker and the Lord and the leader of the Democratic Party, Hakeem Jeffries, and then you have Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell, and those are the four corners, is what they call the four corners. And when Schumer is saying that he couldn't, because we know the Department of Defense bill was, or that the National Defense Authorization Act was, that was the bill that we're talking about, that it was being negotiated between the four corners. The question is, why didn't Schumer push harder to keep his lane intact? I don't know why. Maybe he felt like it wasn't worth it, but at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to try to get better language.
So I promised the Congressman's press secretary Howard out at 7:15, which means last question goes to one sentence. Mr. Douglas Dean Johnson. You got the mic. Oh, you're muted, brother. Unmute yourself. But I will start saying thank you so much for this, Congressman. I learned a lot, and I'm going to have to listen back over it. You're muted, Doug. Hey, I know you've got a role. I promised your press secretary. Again, thank you so much, Congressman. This is enlightening. You and I got to grab a beer and chat through some of this stuff.
That would be great. That would be wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for staying on top of this. I'll just reiterate, in my opinion, this government belongs to you. Take ownership of it. Use your agency, use your political power, and email, call, communicate, or else without that, nothing's going to happen.
And with that, thank you. And you have a wonderful night and good weekend, sir.
Thank you. You too.
Appreciate you, brother. Sorry. Tried to get you in, Dean. He was muted, so he couldn't. And my thing with lawmakers, you'll hear it in some of our exclusives at Ask a Poll. One of my number one jobs is to make sure lawmakers do not miss votes, or they do not miss X events. Because if they do, and they're chatting with me, their press secretary, their chief of staff, their comms team is never going to let them talk to us again. So sorry to speed that up at the end. Sorry for those of you who didn't get questions. And anyone who didn't get a question, ping me. And you know what I do. I ask your questions to your motherfucking lawmakers. Thank you all. And yeah, thank you, former intern, now master student, Noah. Couldn't have done it without you. Like, literally, I can't do shit without you. Thank you. And thank you all for bomb-ass questions. I think we learned a lot there, y'all. I'm going to post this. Hopefully it recorded. We'll post it at Ask a Poll. Yeah, and let's get used to this. Do this about once a month. As lawmakers, our game, and thank you, Ask a Poll community, because those questions were fucking on point. I love it. I learn shit. I don't learn shit from Congress. That's all I got. All right. DJ Laslo is going to take you out on some woo. Cheers, fam. On.